You don't actually miss them. You miss the version of them that only showed up sometimes. And that's exactly why it feels so hard to let go. Because if they were completely distant, if they never gave you anything, you would have walked away a long time ago. But they didn't. They gave you moments. Moments where everything felt easy. Moments where they were present, attentive, almost perfect. Moments where you felt seen, chosen, important. And your mind held on to those moments, not the silence, not the confusion, not the inconsistency, just the highlights. And slowly, those highlights started to define the entire connection in your head. That's where the attachment begins, not from stability, but from contrast. This is something most people don't understand. Real, healthy attachment is built through consistency, predictability, emotional safety. But unstable attachment? That's built through emotional highs and lows, through uncertainty, through unpredictability, through intermittent reinforcement. And that's exactly what you experienced. They didn't give you nothing. They gave you just enough attention to keep you interested, just enough connection to make you feel something real, just enough effort to stop you from walking away, but never enough to feel secure. And that imbalance does something very specific to your mind. It makes you invest more. You start thinking about them more, analyzing their behavior more, replaying conversations, looking for meaning. Because your brain is trying to solve the inconsistency. It's trying to understand why someone who can show up doesn't do it consistently. And the more you try to understand, the more emotionally involved you become. That's the trap. You think you're getting closer to clarity, but you're actually getting deeper into attachment. Because now, it's not just about them. It's about the emotional experience they created inside you. The anticipation, the excitement, the relief when they finally show up again. Those emotional spikes become addictive, not because they're healthy, but because they're unpredictable. And unpredictability creates intensity. And intensity feels like connection, but it's not. It's stimulation. There's a difference. Connection feels calm, stable, grounded. Stimulation feels exciting, but also unstable, uncertain, incomplete. And when you've been in that cycle long enough, you stop recognizing the difference. You start associating emotional chaos with emotional depth. So now, when things are calm, it feels boring. And when things are intense, it feels meaningful. That's how your perception shifts. And this is where most people lose themselves. Because instead of stepping back, they lean in. They try harder. They become more understanding, more patient, more flexible. Not realizing they're adjusting to something that was never meeting them fully in the first place. And over time, this changes your standards. Quietly, you stop expecting consistency. You stop expecting clarity. And you start appreciating small things. A message becomes meaningful. A call becomes special. Basic effort starts to feel like something significant. Not because it is, but because it's rare. And anything rare feels valuable, even when it shouldn't be. This is where emotional attachment turns into emotional dependency. Because now, you're not just connected to them. You're connected to the feeling they give you. Occasionally. And that occasionally is what keeps you stuck. Because every time you think about leaving, you remember those moments. You think, but what if that version of them comes back? But what if they just need time? But what if it becomes consistent? And those what ifs keep you in a loop that has no real progression, just repetition. And the hardest part is, they don't have to do much anymore, because you've already created the emotional depth on your own. You filled in the gaps. You gave meaning to inconsistency. You stayed, even without clarity. So now, the connection continues, with minimal effort from them, and maximum investment from you. That's not balance, that's conditioning. And once you see it clearly, everything starts to change. You stop romanticizing the moments. You start looking at the pattern. Not what they can be, but what they consistently show you. Because that's the truth, not the potential, not the rare version of them, the pattern. And if the pattern is inconsistent, distant, uncertain, then that's your answer. Not something to fix, not something to wait for, something to recognize. Because real connection doesn't leave you guessing. It doesn't make you question your value. It doesn't create confusion as a constant state. It feels stable. Not perfect, but consistent. And once you experience that, you realize something important. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. And the moment you understand that, you stop missing them, because you finally see what you were actually attached to. Not them, but the feeling of almost having something real.